If I need my camera.
Yeah.
But we don't see people. Oh.
Everything is happening.
Unafanyia kitambo jerengea tu hapo. Au chukue kompyuta kuja.
What he wants me to do. So you've shared that link online.
Go behind like around 7 seconds.
That's okay. Oh, sasa ndio unakuja. We want you share the link so that we start.
Kidogo tu. John. Tangoja kidogo tu. Peter, kwa G plus ya Maskani, get the link there. Kwa Google plus ya Maskani. Using your name, you check profile ya Maskani.
Hey, my friend. Ukimaliza na kompyuta uniambie na ajabu.
Even me, but
I missed this at some point.
No, but if you have a keyboard, use a keyboard. What keyboard does it use?
I think the keyboard is using now.
No, but what keyboard does this one use?
No. Like the one you used before.
Oh, this is YouTube.
Yes. You connect net yako today comes. Basi sasa kizima hiyo moyo.
You know, we can use
Peleka
that.
tu mbali.
I think we can use that.
So how do you prevent it? Okay, how do I stop mine from the video?
As long as you manage mic na video.
Within a sound. So now we can go like. That wasn't too complicated, is it? So shall we start? So maybe just quickly a round of introduction for everybody. Starting go then around like that. Sazin.
50.
I'm Kevin. Good morning. My name is Bonamdo.
Hi everyone, my name is Elvis Jabu.
Hello, I'm Jeremy. Okay, sir.
Jimmy Shiggy. Hi.
Sorry, hi, I'm Noni Palasta. Okay.
I'm a dad.
Friend Kajo.
I didn't see John.
Dennis. Awesome. And I'm Itai. So we were actually, expecting more people than we have, which is a good thing. But what we wanted to do today specifically, sort of the big thing we wanted to try and deal with today is understanding the budget, the national budget, not our own. See your individual budget. assuming that you have one or you prepare one. But to try and get an idea of what does it mean. For a lot of us who are on the Maskani Conversations listserv, we had actually shared the budget estimates, which is approximately 654 pages. And a lot of figures and numbers and values and all manner of things that we felt even as people that are interested in government expenditure and understanding what goes on, we really couldn't make head or tail of it. And so we started having that discussion, and we felt it might actually be interesting to bring a group of people together as a Maskani conversation, and have somebody hopefully explain it to us. Like, I'm 3 years old, and so Kinuthia has agreed graciously to come and explain to us. So he will talk to us a little about IBP, the International Budget Partnership, the organization that he works for, where he hails from, and then hopefully take us through the budget estimates, meanings, definitions, and usually these kinds of conversations are very informal. It's a Maskani, so it's the only things that are missing are those things that usually make for a nice Friday evening out or a nice Saturday afternoon out, which might be organized as been mentioned. So it's really a conversation, it's a debate. And what we also do is that everybody is encouraged to be online, on Twitter, on Facebook, or whatever other social media platform you're most comfortable with. We can use both hashtags, Maskani Conversations, budget estimates. Is that what you were using? Budget estimates KE, Maskani Conversations as well, hashtag Maskani Conversations. So we can use those just so that we try and also get other people involved in those conversations, and then they can follow what we have. Additionally, today we are actually streaming this. Like Jeremy, oh, thanks. So we're actually gonna have people follow this. Hopefully, people are gonna follow this online. But the good thing with recording it this way is that we can also use the recording in future to go back and foster further debate and engagement on what is going on, just so that everybody begins to understand what's going on and know where, what are the levels of participation, what are the questions we need to be asking. So thank you very much, and I'll hand over to you.
Budget, what?
Budget estimates may it's still budget estimates
Yeah, for the next month.
for the next month.
Yeah, what
End
are
of this.
budget estimates? It's okay, yeah.
If there's budget estimates, maybe we can just use budget estimates.
No,
We need
okay,
one.
yeah. It's okay.
Oh, okay, budget estimates can budget estimates can. Okay, cool. Okay, so thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
So thanks, and thanks for saying this is informal, so I don't have to make any formal presentation, so we just have conversations. So that's pretty cool. Once again, I'm John Kimuthi. I work with the International Budget Partnership. The International Budget Partnership is an organization that works in about 100 countries. Our focus, even from the name, is we deal with public finance. And our main interest is to promote access to budget information to enable organizations, citizens, and in some cases even government to understand budgets, and to also present information in ways that people are able to easily understand what is happening. I can stand here, or I can stand there. I move a lot, so I'm just giving up.
We are hanging out, so do your thing. Do your thing.
Awesome. So, for us in Kenya right now, I think we've been in Kenya since 2011, and our working at the beginning was mainly focused at the national level. But I think it was also a good time for us to start working in Kenya, because that's the time the evolution was coming in. So we've also had an opportunity to also deal with county governments and also deal with county budgets from the beginning. So this is pretty cool, pretty cool for us. And I think for this day, and if I can go directly to what the request was to kind of introduce the national budget. But I know many of you have seen it before, so I'll not dwell so much in the introduction of what the budget is. But I want directly to go to exactly where are we in the process. Now, one thing that happened when we passed the new constitution is that we also changed our budget process drastically. The days when we did not have the new constitution, the budget process was not very detailed in terms of the number of things that we had to do, the key dates we had to deal with, or the number of documents that we had to produce to inform the budget process. But that changed a lot. For example, if I ask you guys, how did you know previously that the budget time had arrived? How would you tell?
It would be live.
How would it be happening live on TV? There are many things including weather.
Yeah,
So-
there was.
Yeah, the rains would start.
What exactly would you see on KBC that would tell you?
The minister reading at that.
Okay, that was a big
Parliament.
thing. That was the big thing, that you had a guy with a briefcase
Yes.
and a little rose and such other British things. Okay, but then now that has changed. The thing you see the CS doing now is more ceremonial. The budget process changed a lot, because that time when the briefcase will come out, that will be sometime, I think, in June. Right now, the budget has been in Parliament since April 30th. That in my mosquito coil. This is the budget process. First, let me introduce this mosquito coil. It's my favorite working tool, actually. Now, what we thought is that the budget process does not start and end within 12 months. It takes a longer period of time than that. So we decided to represent this in a way that we could show just how long and how detailed the budget process has become. Now, I'm not sure that these colors are very clear to you, but this is blue, this is green, this is yellow, and it's supposed to be striking red if there's a color like that. So the blue section that you see is the section where we are formulating the budget. That's where we are doing plans. That's where we are moving to the public. That's where we ask people what they want to see in the budget. That's the time we ask people what priorities should we fund as a government. When that is done, on April 30th, that budget has to be tabled in the National Assembly. And I think at this point I can say that the processes at the national level and at the county level are parallel and almost the same. Only one step is different. So whatever is happening at the national level, simultaneously is happening also at the county level. So the budget has been in the National Assembly since April 30th. It was actually tabled on that day. Okay, and this has been online, and I think that's what you shared with the guys on Maskani. And so we have now a period of 2 months within which we discuss the budget in the National Assembly. Previously, it was a period of about 2 weeks. So if you think about it, all that Parliament could do then was simply approve the budget. But now there is an opportunity to do a bit more interrogation than previously. And at the same time, there is a requirement that Parliament cannot pass that budget without some formal public engagement. So sometime last week, I think on Wednesday or Thursday, there was the meetings that happened, I think, in Dandora, there was one in Pakasi. It was on Wednesday. Yeah. So that is one thing that Parliament is required to do. And for me, I was happy because they finally moved out of KICC and went to where people really are. All right. So what exactly is it that we are looking at this time? Now, one big thing that is happening right now is that as a country, what we are discussing is exactly what are the priorities within the ministries or within the sectors.
So that's
That
after,
is the big,
after tabling,
yes.
after the tabling on 30th April. So that question is now, the priorities are now, or the priorities have already been set.
Okay, let me start at the top level. One thing that we have to do before we get into the sector prioritization of issues is we have to set the sector priorities. Do we want to give more money to agriculture? Do we want to give more money to infrastructure? Or do we want to see more money going to health? That decision is made in February. Okay? There is a document. Let me just say that and then I'll take the
who makes
question.
that decision? Because when is the public involved?
All right, I'll explain that very slowly.
Please.
In mid-February, there's a document that is tabled in the National Assembly called the Budget Policy Statement. How many of us have ever heard of it?
I've
Yeah,
heard
you
of
have heard
the
of it.
budget.
Budget Policy Statement.
I've heard of it.
About the policy statement.
The Budget Policy Statement is the document that sets the ceilings on the amounts of money going to each sector. Okay? When that document is approved, it has to be approved by the end of that month. So it is in Parliament for about 2 weeks. When that document is approved, the ceilings that are set in there, those are reflective of the sector priorities as a country. And once they are approved, that process ends.
And it is approved, the budget policy statement is approved by Parliament.
Yes,
The PAC or which
the National Assembly.
it's just,
The Assembly itself, yes.
so it goes through which committee?
The Budget and Appropriations Committee.
Now, before that,
Yeah.
before it makes its way, before the ceilings are set, how do they get the estimates? What is the process behind that?
Yeah, so I was coming to that.
Okay, good.
I just wanted, first of all, to make sure that that's clear. That the decision about our priorities in terms of sectors are set by the end of that month. Okay? Now,
So your budget statement, policy statement is the one that is at the end of February.
yes.
And it's the one
But I
that
think the
says-
key thing is when it's tabled.
It's tabled end of February.
Mid-February, February 15th, the date you're thinking. But I think the big issue is when are these priorities set?
Yes, yes.
And where are they coming from? Now, if you think about some time between November and February, you've heard of something called MTF sector hearings. MTF sector hearings, the way they are structured, are supposed to feed into that process. That is the point where we decide where we want to put more of our money at that very top level. Okay? And it starts with the question of how much can we raise, how much do we want to spend. Okay? And then we will now have sector ceilings that will be provisional at that point. And this is what the National Treasury comes to the public with and says, these are the sector hearings, these are the sector provisional ceilings. This is the amount of money we think each sector should take. What do you think? Now, one issue that has been there is that a lot of these processes have been done within Nairobi. So that has been an issue. And I think for us also, we've been pushing that it needs to go to the counties. Because the national budget is also implemented in the counties. So that process of the MTF sector here system.
Okay.
Yes.
Sasa, okay, it's between November and February.
Yes.
If there's a health facility in Taveta, okay, so they have their health facility budget, which they forwarded to. Okay. So how are the priorities from the Mashinani, from the community, or from the counties? How do they find their way there? At what point do they feed into that process?
Now, when you think about how government budgeting works, the key players are actually the line ministries. Because even when you're funding, you fund them through the same.
Yeah.
So, first of all, let me not use the example of the health facilities, because now those ones are at the county. Let's think of something like security, a police station that is in a certain place.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, the line ministries are the ones that would be coming and saying that for all the things that we have to pay for as a ministry for the coming financial year, this is how it looks like. There's this amount of money that we have to put in place to ensure services continue running. Salaries, water payment for electricity, supply of goods and services. That one is there. And secondly, they can come in and say, we have ongoing capital projects, development projects that we have, and this is the amount of money we have to commit to ensure these projects are finished. Now that's an ideal case because you don't want to have stalled projects. And then the third bit would be, there are new things that we want to do. Okay? And we need this amount of money to do these new things. So technically what the line ministries do is actually bid. It's like a bidding process.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's also competitive. Huh?
Yeah, it's competitive.
Yeah.
It's competitive at the ministry level because remember, you have 10 sectors, but then we have more ministries than that. So even the ministries compete for resources. Okay. So all that is feeding into that process. And I think that's why it has a long period of time. I think the challenge has been, do people know this process is going on? Okay, so that's the big challenge. Now I'm telling you this time, the next time you hear of MTF sector hearings, that's the point to turn up. Because for me, I think the big decision is the decision we make at the point budget policy stage. Because if you go to public forums at this point in April, you'll still hear people say we want more money for health, but that train left.
Yes.
So that's in February.
So that process is happening way even before February. In February, from November
to September.
To February.
So
you can think of it that we can influence that process before that document is tabled in the national assembly.
and this provision for me as a citizen, for example, to participate in that security sector budget development process between that November and February.
Yes.
How is that? What forums are there?
So normally what they do if anyone who's ever been to those sector here, they actually divided up into sectors.
Yes.
So the discussions are not just here is the total budget, let's all talk about it, and you can throw in a security question, she can throw in a health question. No. So it's structured in a way that the sectors themselves have discussions.
Okay.
So the guys from the line ministries, it's not just Treasury that leads the process. So the guys from the line ministries also come in, and so the discussion is per sector. So the different ministries under one sector will be having one discussion. Because remember also at this point, it will not be a very big discussion about the detailed line item things. We're just thinking as a sector, where are we going? Okay? And then it has to still be based on the thinking that the law now requires that no budgeting should happen outside that planning framework. And our planning framework at the national level is the Vision 2030. And then there are the little broken up, I think, plans that I think are 5 years, 10-year plans. So also as a sector, we'll be thinking and saying, in our Vision 2030, our big thing is infrastructure. So even the infrastructure guys will come arguing, according to our national blueprint,
Yes.
infrastructure is a priority. So that's where we are asking for more money. Okay, so those are the kind of arguments that will be coming. But as I say, yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Who decides the specific focus that you may have in a certain sector? Priority. Who priority? We know there's the bigger framework, the Vision 2030 framework.
Yes.
Within it, we have, the plans
Yes.
that have various timelines, right? So who decides the priority of action?
So I think there will be two key players here. Number one, you'll find documents. If you go to the Treasury website, you'll find documents called the sector plans, MTF, sector plan reports or plan sector reports. I think that's the name. I don't remember exactly. But those are documents that kind of have a focus over the next 3 to 5 years. What is it that we are trying to do as a sector? So those are documents that are put together by the line ministries.
So in the development of those plans,
Yes.
is the Mwananchi involved?
Now, the Mwananchi comes in because remember these documents, if you look at them, they are very important. And this is the first point where the ministries under those sectors are saying, this is the amount of money we need to implement the things we want to do. But then when it comes to the sector hearings themselves, those reports are presented because the government cannot just walk in here and say, okay, so what do you want? What they say is, here is where we are, this is the amount of money we think we can provide. And this is the thinking that is already going on in the ministries. So what is it that your citizens think with this in play already, but also with the understanding that the community might have different priorities in mind. So that's where I think the sector hearings is where the public really comes from. But ideally, by the time we are deciding what priorities, I'm using the word idea, is that we would have gone through that process as I'm describing. So there's been a bit, I think, of an issue on the public side, because sometimes if you've been to this sector here, it can be very frustrating. Because the guys from government come and say stuff and say stuff and say stuff, and then they give you 20 minutes for all of you to say your stuff after they've spoken for 2 hours. So also the structure of the public participation has been one of the things we're trying to influence, to make sure that it's more of the public speaking and less of the government telling us what they want to do. Yes.
Actually, I have participated in several public hearings, and the ones that I have been to, the Mwananchi and the ones who talk the most, not the government. And they actually air the things a lot. Now, what I want to know is you say that the vision, whatever they talk about, is usually a vision for 5 to 10 years. But that is not something that you say when you go to those hearings, because people know we are talking about our sewage issue and whatever issues. The practical issues, yes, and they think you are coming to solve it like in the next month, not in 5 years from now to come. Is there a way you can tell the public that, by the way, this plan, you have already set the budget and this is not going to happen now? Because just last week, you had a parliamentary public hearing and people had their views, and now, according to what you're saying, the budget has already been done in Feb, so that means this one is not even going to be happening until like next year or 5 years from now. Is there a way to just, sensitize the public about that so that they don't have great expectations again?
I
think just a point of correction. What has already been decided is the total amount of money that will be there to spend for each sector, not what it will actually be spent on. That is what we are discussing now. As I said, the decision about whether we are putting more money to health or agriculture, that's what was already decided. But then we've not decided under agriculture what we want more. We want more extension officers, we want to have more money for subsidies, for fertilizers and so on. That decision is what. So if that's what people are saying in the forum last week, that's the right thing. Yes.
How do I decide that I want 50 million without knowing what I want? How can I set a ceiling for 50 million without knowing that for this 50 million, what if what I need to happen will overshoot the 50 million? Maybe
But then
more.
it's a supplementary budget process.
Even before we get there, I think the challenge of every budget person is that we always have very little money and an infinite number of needs. And so the thing that the ministries do, as I said earlier, they just give provisional expenditure ceilings. They're just saying, okay, we think this is how we spend the money.
But from somewhere, right?
Yeah, of course, it has to be from somewhere. Because remember also at the same time, all these services are not new. A lot of the money that we spend is actually just to keep services running. That little health center that is in some place is just already there, and we have to ensure it also keeps running. If you think about the amount of money that we actually discuss about new things to do, because a lot of the money is spent on ongoing services, salaries have to be paid, things have to be maintained, and so on. And then you also have ongoing projects, which would be very big. Think SDR. How much money do we need to allocate 2015, 2016 to keep SDR running? That's a huge amount of money that is taken away from the ones that we'll now be discussing about the new things to do this year.
That's your priority.
Okay. So just to come back to your point. So I think, and we will discuss this as we go, especially when we're looking at the budget itself. So the big discussion we're having is right here. Okay. The budget has been tabled. It's in the National Assembly. And now the discussion we're having is what are the different priorities under each ministry. It's now a competition between the programs and sub-programs that exist within the different ministries that we have in the country. So, yes.
We are discussing how much for each.
So we are discussing, let me use an example. I think that will be much better. So first of all, the budget that you're looking at nowadays is very different from what we used to previously have. Now we have something that is called a program-based budget. Now, previously we had something we used to call an itemized budget. An itemized budget was one of those budgets that you had that was simply speaking about the things or the inputs that we have to give each ministry to deliver its services. Okay? But a program-based budget completely shifts that. And what you're looking at is what are the government programs and how much money do we need to give them to achieve certain objectives. So in terms of monitoring, it's quite easy to look at a program-based budget compared to an itemized budget. Now, I want to take an example of what ministry should I look at? Health or devolution?
There was on devolution. It's all like devolution wameficha vitu mingi sana huko ndani.
Very wide.
Devolution.
I want you to also let me use this as a way to also discuss what the different components of this now look like. Now, this is the Ministry of Health. Now, one thing that we know is that health is one of the big sectors that have been devolved, but there's still a bit that is remaining at the national level. Okay? So, in a program-based budget, one of the best things that it has that the previous item-based budget did not have is just a narrative. And this is just a narrative explaining what the ministry wants to do. In some cases, also reviewing how the past year has been in terms of their performance. Remember, we still allocated the money in the previous year. So an explanation of what the performance was like, and then moving on to explain what are the priorities that the ministry has for the coming financial year. Remember, when now we are coming to monitor them, what we'll be saying is you asked us for an X amount of money last year to achieve objective 1 to 3, and so we'll be checking whether they achieved that objective. So the narrative is a good introduction that also tells us how is it that the ministry is arriving at some of these priorities. How is it that they are arriving at some of these decisions that they are making? So this is one of the good things that you find in a program-based budget. Is the narrative good enough? I think that is something that we still have a bit of an issue with, because some of the narratives are not very clear. Because essentially what it should be doing is connecting the priorities with the tables with the numbers. Saying we want to achieve objective X and we need an amount of money of this size to achieve that objective. So that's where a narrative should make it a bit easier for us to see what is happening.
Can I throw a spanner?
Yes, please.
in the review process, in the review of previous appropriations, how does the Auditor General's findings play into that, or in the? Or maybe we park that one and deal with it.
No, we'll deal with it at some point.
Okay.
Yes, we'll deal with it at some point. So the one thing that you have, as I said, is now you have programs under each ministry. Okay, previously we just had departments. Department of this, department of that. So you came under health, you find a department on immunization, a department on what else is there in health? Kenyatta National Hospital, department. And then under it you just have items, salaries will be this much, transport will be this much, domestic travel will be this much. So do not be really telling us what Kenyatta is trying to achieve, and that's why we are giving them this money. You just be telling us Kenyatta will require these things to run. Okay, but now with programs, it becomes a bit easy. Because, for example, Kenyatta is a hospital, so we know they're under curative health because people are going there for treatment. So we can evaluate what the curative health program is trying to achieve and question whether they are spending the money as they say they won't, and at the same time, whether they are achieving certain objectives that they told us they were going to achieve if we give them that money. So that is one of the key things, that the programs are quite useful in terms of also monitoring what the budget is trying to achieve. Now, this is another key section in the budget now. And for me, this is, I always say this is the best part for anyone who wants to know what the government is trying to do with our money. Now, with programs, and the good things about programs is that programs are very broad. And under programs, you'll always have a breakdown into some sub-programs. Structure will have output and performance indicators for each of these programs and their sub-programs. Now, I want us just to look at one example here. So this is a program on preventive and promotive health. Okay, so under that, you can see what the outcome they want to have is to reduce prevalence of communicable and uncommunicable conditions. But then under that program, there are sub-programs. And one of that sub-program is health promotion. Okay. Now, under health promotion, there are several delivery units. Now, the question could be, why are there different players in place? Because you can see nutrition, environmental, and health, and so on. I think it will take us back to a question on what is a program. Well, the big name of the budget is a program-based budget. So what is a program? Okay. A program is just a set of activities working towards a common goal. So here we have a set of activities trying to achieve this objective. Okay. Now, for each of these delivery units, now you can see that we are able to see what is it that they are trying to do. For example, under nutrition, one thing that the government has as a key output is dewormed children. Okay? Yes, dewormed children. I don't know about the grammar.
And adults.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Okay. And one of the indicator for that is the percentage of pre and primary school age children who've actually been dewormed. Okay. And what we see is that in 2015-2016, they want to make sure that 85% of all children in ECD and primary schools are dewormed.
Which means it's a serious problem.
It is a serious thing. And apparently, I think the guys from there was a big correlation between deworming and school attendance. Seriously. Because it was Omega and a couple of other districts, I think in 2011 or 2010. So, yes.
Tangent, question by tangent. So technically, based on what you're asking, is also, I guess then we also need to have an understanding of the programs and how the programs are generated, right? Because then that then influences budget, if you see what I mean, right? So because it comes from the question you asked, so dewormed children, and you're thinking, who decided? Yeah, where is it? How does it end up as a resources can actually advocate for something to get into this level of programming, which then gets into government money. Like it's trying to understand the different processes, right? And how each one of them is sort of blocked towards getting there.
And you can also use this to,
I guess.
And again, the study was done somewhere in Kakamega. But the program enrolled the entire country.
Yes.
They used to enroll the project to the other parts of the country, and the study was done in
Well, I would be lying to say no.
The sample frame, I mean, they just decided to use those two to build a case. But for example, if it is specific things, they also have their own nutrition departments that corroborate this. And it's like I have a very good experience of this in Maskani. It's actually.
I think the inference of this study was actually in several places. That's why.
Okay.
But I think the key thing, and to come back to what you say, is that the moment you are getting to this level of detail, then already, because very few people are interested in the whole budget, ideally. There are very few Kinudians in this country who just want to know the total. So people are interested in sectors, people are interested even sometimes to particular programs. Now, with this level of detail, it makes it very easy for me. If I care about at health promotion level, then I can easily come to this level. And even when I'm making my submissions to the ministries, I can easily come and say, okay, now, as a person who is in this part of the budget, I think 2-3 things need to change here, or 2-3 things need to be improved. So this level of detail is good. However, remember, at this level, we are just seeing what the government wants to over the next 3 years. So you can see that this is to go from 85%, then the next year is 85%. Okay? So already for me, this is a big issue.
Yeah.
Why are you asking me for money and then you're not going to improve? Okay? So when you see, as you're going down, the level of interrogation is better if this level of detail is there.
But
You never had this in the itemized budget. So now the fact that we have program-based budget, we are able to question what the ministry, through different programs, is trying to achieve.
and you're holding them to account with their own data.
Yes, with their own data. Okay. Last year there was something under health that had, I think, a percentage of maternal deaths in facilities. Now, I'm not a health expert, but to me that sounded like the number of women who die in a health facility when giving birth. All the 3 indicators were stated as 100%. And we were like, so you want all the mothers in these facilities to die?
I think
So sometimes the indicators might not be very clear. But then that's something also that now, as we are interrogating the budget and making submissions, it becomes issues that we raise and make sure that they are clarified.
and also
Yes.
it allows for structured engagement.
Yeah.
Like for example, if you don't understand why 85, then you need to explain.
Yeah.
For example, what that tells me is that we cannot deworm 100%. We want to maintain at 85%. There always be those who fall outside the cracks that we cannot reach totally. And it's a normal trend in health. Then the next year, we want to just maintain. If you can maintain 85 this year and 85 next year, we can only increase by 5%, but you can never get 100% deworming. So I think that's it's very good. Each and every sector, what you need to do, so you go to the deworming again, that output. You look to that specific budget. What are the key activities? Where are they targeting all these? That information is also there.
So this is the good thing about this is that also when you have the experts within the sectors, they also have an idea about the costs.
Yes.
And so from this level, if I'm only concerned about health promotion, what I would be going to next is to find where the money to fund this is within the budget. And so what you have is that as you go down, you start finding the tables.
Yes.
Okay. Now you can see our health promotion is here. I need to expand this. So now you can see that sub program. Here it is. Okay. So this is the amount of money that we are going to put in for those 3 activities that so something on the warming.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is the amount of money. So first of all, the way this is structured, there are some cute words used here, but they are used to mean just obvious things. For example, there is current expenditure. That's just the current expenditure, running costs. Okay, and then we have capital expenditure down there. Just another cute term for development. Okay. Now, under each of these, you can see something we call an economic classification of items. So you have compensation to employees. What do you think that is?
PDMs.
Salary.
Those are PDMs allowance, food allowance.
Which one?
Compensation to employees.
That's criminal.
Employees.
That's usually out of pocket. Na nini? Out of pocket. And
No, salary is
salary
promoting
is under
current
current
expenditure.
expenditure.
Recurrent.
No, this current expenditure here, as you can see, is bolded. It is a total of these 4 items.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So this is
That's
a total of all
But,
this.
Yes.
but the salaries should not appear there. There's the development and whatever thing. What is it called? General admin planning and support system.
You see, that's why he got cute.
This is criminal.
Okay.
You know they're stealing it live.
But I don't know.
This is robbery because
Ethiopia is like me, that custodian, I am extricating myself. My job is to explain to you the budget. Now you just are paying for my
because it is their plane, and then you are complaining that these guys are on a repressor and allowances. But we approved it. It's our taxes. So why are we complaining?
Now,
Yes.
one thing that might give you some peace is that this is inclusive of salaries and allowances.
Is it?
Okay.
No,
Compensation to employees is actually salaries, allowances, benefits, everything that we pay our employees.
Just listen.
Compensation. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, make me understand.
Yes.
So, under every program,
Yes.
you budget also for the staff.
Yes.
Yes.
And you rank up for the staff costs
Yes.
within the development, whatever thing is.
Yes.
They might, the indicators. If the target is 85%, like we've seen there, isn't it?
Yeah.
The delivery units for that 85% are the staff, part of the resources, human resource.
Yes.
So you also put the employees' expenses within that.
Yes.
That is wrong.
I don't think actually in good budget practices that's what you should do.
No, you should separate because there's a okay, it's an academic argument, but my thing is that there's high chances of double allocation.
If it's done the way that it's done here,
Yeah.
then it becomes easy to not do that.
Okay.
Because this is the thinking that under this program, we are trying to achieve a couple of things.
Yeah.
And among some of the things that we'll need there is staff. Okay, we'll need certain people to implement these programs. Okay, and in some cases, and in many cases in government, is that probably that number of staff is not enough.
Yeah.
Or probably we have more than we need. The best way to pick that out is at this level. Okay, because for example, if the salaries, you can see this is just over 2 billion shillings. Okay, compensation to staff is just over 1 billion shillings. Now, if you were to think that this is a program that is to be done countrywide, then you came here and you found compensation to employees 10 million shillings. That will tell you probably there are 20 or 15 people to run that program. And you can easily question and say, are we allocating enough money for the people who are to run this program to be able to actually reach country? So having the salary
I have something to pick.
yes.
So for me, the question, so this is at the sub program level.
Yeah, these are the sub
So health promotion.
Yeah.
So because then I'm trying to figure out, are we then specifically employing people to just do health promotion? Because then what it says is that what you're saying, what that budget says to me is that we are going to employ very specific health promoters, quote unquote, so that their cost becomes almost like an activity cost. It is an activity cost, right? So then the CS and those are the people that are very high level police and whatever, then go to that
General
process,
administration.
the general administration, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is that's
Would you then, because in terms of interrogating, then I'm asking myself to okay, even the billion, 2.4,
Yeah.
Billion.
It's 2.2 billion. Chineke, that is 2.2 tons.
Maybe we should have started here.
It is 2.2 tons of paper,
Yes, it is.
right? So that 2.2 billion over 12 months, like, because in terms of then, because if you're going all the way down to service delivery, because at the end of the day, as a citizen, I am very interested in, I pay taxes, I expect services, right? So then in my health center in Apura, I expect to have a health promoter employed by government, but who also has the accessories, tools, instruments that they need to do their work.
So maybe I should have started here.
Can I say this?
Yes.
This all starts at the what do you call it again?
MTX.
MTX sector.
Yes.
And this is why this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically what happens is that those people who go for that, they already know how much is going to be allocated. If you can go backwards. Right. So now, if we were, for example, to go for the November one, we already know that the estimate is about how many billions.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be able now to talk. Now you'll be able to talk and say, this is what I want for this, and this. Because at the end of the day, it looks like they already know all this. So they already know this is how much money has been budgeted. And that's why they can go and sit in Parliament and say, I want my salary to be this much. Because that money is there. But if you had been there at the first level, you'd already have said, you know what? There's going to be this much billion there. Now, this is where we should go. Which means that by the time they go and sit in Parliament to discuss Parliament, there's no money for their salaries. So this is excellent information for us. What they've been doing is that they have actually been using this information for their own purposes.
For their own benefit.
Yeah.
So
So now, because now we know the information, it is to go out and be there in November.
And encourage as many people.
And encourage as many people to go and say, you know what, there's these billions. If we don't eat it, it will end up in the salaries.
Yeah. True.
And also don't lose
Yeah.
focus on the fact that at the end of the, I don't know when the budget begins, the cycle begins again.
That's in August.
In August,
At
yes.
the end of it, there's usually certain amounts of money that is returned back.
Yes, exactly. That's
the
right.
treasury.
And
And
mention
It's
that.
supposed to be, yes.
Where does this
It's
money go
supposed-
to? And is it cloud?
That is why they sit in those meetings and say, give it to me, it's extra.
We're not told the return.
Yeah.
Let
And
me
you don't
do
know what
this.
happened.
You lit a vibe. You lit a vibe. I think it's a very good fight. I think
Yes,
these are the
very
kinds
good
of
point, because
discussions
now
we
we're
don't have.
beginning to
We should,
understand the
and
process.
this
Yeah.
discussion based on facts.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what
It's
I like
perfect.
about it. Yeah.
The one thing I always say is that with the program-based budget, the government is actually giving us information that is way much better to hold them account than what we had before.
Yes.
And also there are people working to try and make sure that this information is improved over time. Because it's not where we want yet.
Yes.
Okay? So it's also improving it over time. But if you think about those kind of indicators that I was showing you, it gives everyone who is interested in whatever sector in government some fodder that is quite particular to work. And if you're able to engage with the process at the exact times when certain decisions are being made, then it's a bit easier to say something a bit more focused
Yes.
beyond I want a school. Okay? So there is something that is improving, but then there are still a lot of things that are still missing. So as I was saying, this is where I should have started. Now, this is the Ministry of Health. If you look at this title here, it is a summary of expenditure by vote. Okay? Now, when you see the word vote, think ministry. So this is the total that is going to the Ministry of Health at the national level, not in the whole country. Now, I need to clarify that part. There is more money going to the counties under health than what we have. Remember, we split up the ministry. So all the money for provincial hospitals, the money that is going for district hospitals, sub-district hospitals, down to the community development centers, community health centers, is all with the counties. So this is for the functions that the national government is running at the national level. So one thing I like about this year's budget is that it actually has what was allocated in 2014-2015. Okay, so this is what we approved for that ministry in 2014-2015. So you can see the total was just below 50 billion. And with a breakdown, most of it going to recurrent costs and also quite a considerable amount to development. Okay. Now then the next year, this is what we are proposing to spend starting July this year. Now the cool thing about this is that you can make a comparison. And for me, that's the best thing that tells you where the priorities are when you're able to make comparisons between what we spent previously and what we are allocating going forward.
What we anticipate to spend.
Yes.
So you said vote.
Yes.
Vote up there is what we have currently as a ministry.
Yes.
So that's so there.
Remember the bidding thing
of them.
Remember the bidding thing I spoke about. So money is allocated by votes because this guy is actually it's like an election. It's like there are bids and then. So if you go actually the terminology used in expenditure is actually government, expenditure votes. So for the Ministry of Health, this is what you have for the total budget. Now, when you're at this level, I want you to see some of the things that jump at you. Now, if you look at the breakdown under recurrent expenditure, the first one that I spoke about is compensation to employees. Okay, so that's where the salaries are. Okay. Now you can see that, well, it's gone up by about from 5.4 to 5.9, that's about half a billion. Then you have use of goods and services. Okay, so under goods and services where you have your maintenance and your operations. So if you're thinking about a facility somewhere in Karambura, then you would think that facility requires water, electricity has to be paid, they need to buy drugs, they need to buy non-pharmaceutical commodities and so on. Okay? Then the next one is you have what I call current transfers to government agencies. Now, here you're speaking about monies that the government is giving to certain agencies that are not directly working at the ministry level. Think of parastatals. Okay, so when you see current transfers to government agencies, then here you are thinking about government agencies or what sometimes they call sagas, autonomous government agencies. So, but the best example is always parastatals.
So, Jimmy, for Ministry of Health, which one did that be?
Paracetamol, KEMSA.
Okay.
KMTC would also be under this. Also here you have Kenyatta National Hospital is also a parastatal. MTRH is also a parastatal. So you can see actually how big that amount is. Yes.
In relation to cancer is the counties were making noise that they want to purchase their own.
Can I leave that for the AOB sector? That's a big fight that won't end, but we'll discuss it. So, if you look at the level of detail you have under that recurrent, and as you see, as we are trying to explain what is what, for example, under government agencies, you have to try and guess what is under this. But that information is not here. For all we know, that will not be it. Okay? Sometimes you just don't assume. We are not trying to explain. It's a clarification thing that
there's no breakdown of that anywhere else.
We look for it. That's the thing. Because we started at the top. And what we want us to do is actually go level by level and see whether we're able to find information that is useful for us to decide and say, this is a budget that I understand, I can see what is happening, and I can actually tell where the money is going. Now, under capital expenditure, as I said, this is where your development budget is. For us in budget terminologies, we try and be a bit conservative about the use of the word development to mean capital expenditure. But that's what government is. Because development does not necessarily always mean brick and mortar. Development is not always about acquisition of assets. In some cases, if I'm from Wajir and we've never had a dentist for 50 years, and finally a dentist comes, I might consider that development. So we always are a bit conservative about use of it. But capital expenditure is a perfect term for this. Now, under this, you have acquisition of non-financial assets. What could that be? Or maybe I flip it. What are financial assets? Loans.
Grants,
When you're heading there, so I won't call a loan an asset. I think it's a liability. You're heading in that direction. Investments. Think of the Eurobond. Now, the Eurobond is something we consider as a country as an asset. Can you touch the Eurobond somewhere? There is a financial asset that we have. If the government has shares, for example, if the government has shares in KPLC, okay, those are those are financial assets. Okay, bonds, shares, all those other cute things that economists speak about. So those will be financial. So what this line is telling us that this is what assets we plan to acquire that are not Eurobonds and shares and so on. So here is where you'll think we'll build a hospital, we'll buy cancer machines, we'll do what. So that's what is under. Okay?
Fencing things.
Yeah.
Fencing.
So this is where your acquisition this is where your acquisition of assets are. And then you have capital grants to government agencies. So the same language as what we have here. Okay, so this is money that is going to certain government agencies within the ministry. And then you have something called other development. If you check clearly here, the development budget, the capital expenditure is 21 million. And 12 million is going to other development. What is other development? Billion. Yeah, this is 12 billion.
Following the first 12.
We're rich.
We might be. Okay, so what is this? So this at this level, as you can see, they're not very easily able to tell what the things are. Okay, and what I would do then is I go a bit lower and see, am I able to see explanation of what these things are? Okay, because remember, this is just at the ministry level. This is just a ministry summary. Okay, now under the ministry, we know there are programs and sub-programs. And so what I would be doing is to go down and see whether things get a bit, I get more clarity at that level. So for example, now I already start saying, okay, so under the ministry, apparently there are sub-programs. Okay? And already I can start seeing what those things are. So I can see here is health promotion. So if I'm a health person, I can already start getting an idea of what that is. Okay? But as you can see, the classification is still in the same language. Okay? Still, other development is getting quite a big allocation, but then I think the listing of the programs and sub-programs starts giving you an idea on where the money is going. Okay? Now, so we were here, and what I was explaining is one of the things that we should be doing right now, and which is the big thing to do right now, is to think in the ministry that we have, if it's health, for example, as what we've taken, what are the priority programs, and how can I tell what the priorities are? Okay, because one of the things that we do as citizens is first of all, want the budget to fund our priorities. Okay? If I come and check and see that the priorities as they are presented in the budget fit with what I think is a priority, then I'm good. But if they are not, then I am able to tell and I'm able to make a submission and say, I don't think the priorities fit what we feel as our people that should be funded for the coming financial year. So one easy way to do that, as I said, is just to compare what did we spend last year and what are we planning to spend for the coming financial year. Now, how do you do this? Let's take health has 5 programs. Okay? What you'll be looking at is what is the share that is going to each of the program as a percentage of the total going to the ministry. Let me show that practically. Lucky enough, I had done this a few days ago.
Mandazi
This is deep, eh?
this stuff is like I might need to eat something. We are so grateful. You have no idea.
I wish we had 3 days. This takes a long time.
But
Okay.
this is just amazing.
So this is the Ministry of Health down here. We can see. So what I simply did is I took what we have for 2014-15. That's what the current financial year that is coming to an end. And then we have what the government is planning to spend for the coming financial year. Now,
An extra 10.
Yeah, billion.
yes, there's an extra 10
Billion.
shillings.
Now your airlines.
Billion.
So,
From your pocket.
All right.
on my taxes.
Now, what we have here,
And not
So take more alcohol.
so what you have as percentages that you are seeing here, you can see program share to the ministry total. So, for example, if we take this preventive and promotive health, the total allocation was 10 billion shillings in 2014-2015. That is about 20% of the total in that year.
Okay.
I want to make sure we are together up to that point. Thank you. Your mathematics teachers should keep their salaries. Now, that is repeated for all the other. So if you add this, it adds up to 100.
Yes.
Okay, so we are taking what is the share going to each of these programs as a percentage of the total. Now, what you have here,
Mommy, I'm even worried that they've cut it. Preventive.
we'll see. Now, what you have here is the same process, but now for 2015-2016. Now, you can already start seeing the dynamics. For preventive health, the share of its total has gone down from 20 to 12%.
Yes.
So it has a big allocation, but its share of the total budget is actually going down.
Yes.
Do they give a reason?
That's something you would expect to find in the narrative.
Now for the
Because at the narrative level is where they explain to you what the priority
the reason could be, for example, a huge chunk of preventive and promotive health services has been taken to the counties. So the counties are taking care of that alone. So that's also something.
Oh,
That's also.
because this
This
is
is
only
the
at the
national
national
health
National.
budget. But there are some
I would not say that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Because this was still within devolution. 2014-2015 was still within the devolution time. So the monies to the counties went in 13-14. So starting 13-14, what you are making
it's still that.
is simply what remained.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, the budget.
budget ya kwenda kwa county inatengenezewa wapi?
Na county.
Since you're here.
No, but
By MCA.
no, ngoja kwanza
Wale wa
MCA.
Not the specific
I'm
one,
trying
but
to figure out.
Yeah.
You see, that's the question.
The thing
Because
is,
the county budgets are not reflected anywhere in
Yeah.
the national.
So here, there's no money that is going to the county.
There's no
in
money
terms
there.
of
There
the-
could be some conditional grants, like the maternal health one could be in here.
Mhm.
Because the national government is taking a chunk of its money and giving as a conditional grant to counties.
Mhm.
So that might reflect here.
Mhm.
But the 258 billion shillings
Mm.
that we are giving to the counties, that does not reflect here.
yeah. So the thing is look at it this way.
Need mandazi.
Wait.
Yes.
What do you, can you please further explain conditional grant?
Okay.
Under what conditions?
We are going to the county budget. But
Yes.
what is a conditional grant? A conditional grant is the amount of money given with certain restrictions on how it's to be used.
Ah,
For example, if I give a conditional grant for maternal health, what I'm saying is you can only spend this money on maternal health services. You cannot use it to build roads. So there are cases where counties are given that kind of money by the national government from its share. Because remember, the national government is also trying to achieve some manifesto things and so on. So they could give a conditional grant for a certain case, and that might reflect here. But the budget, the 29 billion shillings that the Nairobi budget is putting in its budget and so on, that's not part of this.
Yeah. This
So
is
how does that feed into the that budget you're saying is not part of it? There's a way it feeds in, right?
But
So
that's
that
in
is
another
approved in
ministry. There's a disconnect.
Let me put it this way. Counties and the national government, and I think this is something that has been a challenge. Most of the time when money is going to the counties, people say the national government is transferring money to counties. That is wrong terminology. Because the national government does not transfer money to the counties. What we do at the division of revenue stage, sometime in February, when we are dividing money between the national government and the county government, is we say, national government, this is your money. County governments, this is your money. That's where we separate them.
From the consolidated.
Yeah. So everyone go and do their own thing. Now, are there standards that we're all trying to achieve? Yes. We have national policies about what we're all trying to do, but we'll budget differently. The other big issue that comes up a lot is, are there, does the way the money comes to the counties, Does it give them like a ceiling on how much they must spend on health? The answer to that question is no. If the money comes to Turkana County today and they say we are not going to put a single shilling in health, welcome to the new constitution, they are allowed to do that. Okay, the autonomy of how county budgets, the autonomy of how county budgets operate means that, okay, it was anyway the whole essence of devolution, that people at the local level will decide what their priorities are.
Yes.
Turkana might feel our priority this year
So
is
what happens to the national policy on the sectors?
that's where now that comes.
Yeah.
That ideally, and this is, with a presidential system, we are talking more of negotiation than anything else.
Yeah.
And ideally, what you'll be doing is saying, Turkana County, and this is what now like what the National Treasury did when devolution started. They gave them a huge list of how much money they have been spending on different services. Because remember, these services were not new. Apart from the governor's office and the county assemblies, the health, the agriculture that they took over were services that were there previously. And so what the national government did was to tell them, for this service, the last year before devolution, we spent about 20 billion shillings on it. So when the county is budgeting, they know that to keep these facilities running, probably we need to make sure there's 20 billion shillings in for this. Okay. And then at the same time, there are those national standards that we are trying to achieve that are there. And counties are required to also try and feed into that. So that keeps things in check, but does not completely tell them what to do. So that is quite a bit. So what I'm saying is the budget you're looking at here is not inclusive of what the county will budget as their health priorities. Now back to my boring mathematics. Now, when you look at this, and maybe I can just push this to us. Now, you can start seeing the trends of what is happening. Okay? So whatever is in negative means that its share of the budget has actually gone down. Whatever is going up, it means that its share of the money has actually gone up. In a very layman thinking, my thinking would be that anything that I'm planning to give more money to, I consider it of more a priority compared to other things. Okay? So at this level, if I'm going to Parliament next week, I will already have a perception on what I need to say. Am I comfortable with this? If I'm comfortable with this and I think this is what the priorities should look like, then it's good. If it's not, then I have an idea about what to say about this. For example, there are people who really think that the government should continuously be putting in more money for preventive health than curative health. That has been a discussion in the health sector for some time. No, we need to prevent diseases before they happen. And to do that, we need to put in more money. So there could be somebody who is a bit disturbed to see that goes down. Okay? So you can see what happens when you're able to compare what is happening between 2 years and at a program level. Now you can repeat this for all the ministries. Now I want to show you.
So where is it? Sorry, this is a question to Jimmy. Because he's involved in the health.
HIV,
It's preventive and promotional health service?
it's only this year that HIV was put in the Ministry of Health. It was in the Office of the President.
Special program.
Oh, under the National Control Council.
Yeah, National Health Control Council.
Oh.
But
Are they
this year,
moving now?
they've been put into the Ministry of Health, but I think they're a department now.
Really?
Just as a note, there is still a huge global fund money under the Ministry of Finance. I don't know, but it sounds like.
On what? On HIV?
I'm not sure there's the HIV one, it doesn't have the tag, so probably it's not the malaria or the TB one, probably it's the HIV.
But it's usually all of if it's global fund, it's HIV, TB, and malaria.
What they do in the budget, they split them up.
Oh,
So you have a global fund general, then you have one for malaria, and then another for TB. Now, I want now for us to think about what does it look like when you think about the whole government budget, the whole national budget, and where the big money is going. Now, I want us to look at this. So what I've done here is I took all the government programs in the national budget, and I wanted to see of all those programs, where are the big increases, where are the big reductions? Okay, so what I've done is that I've expanded from health to everything. Okay? Now, you can always look at the aggregate level and you look at that. But for me, the big thing is always at the percentage level. Because, for example, TSC is big. Okay, the amount of money we spend on teachers will always be big.
Mm.
If it goes up by 2%, that's still a huge amount of money going up. Now, the amount of money going for preventive health is smaller, but then it could double and it reflect 100%. And for me, that speaks more than just the aggregate. Okay. Now, if you look at this, you can see there are some ninjas that are going up by 461%.
Yes.
That is, they've gone 4 times.
This is
And they were not only happy
This
with
is
4
rail
times.
transport.
Rail transport, yes.
Is this 46.1 or 46?
No, this is 461.
461%, yes.
Yes.
In
Yes.
one financial year.
Yes.
Yes.
They did not just go up
Increase.
4 times,
Increase.
but they also went 61% on top of the 4 times.
Okay.
But yes,
So
that's
this
okay.
already starts
You've
giving
not seen a
you.
train anywhere.
No. They're building the
But those guys are on a strike.
Yeah.
The builders of the SGR, they are on strike that they haven't been paid on a deal that they negotiated back in February for a railway that we do not need. Yeah.
That is what it translates to. Trains.
Now,
Yeah.
Maybe let us understand it so that we can.
No,
So,
understand it.
you can see the big increase, and you can see where it went from. In 2014, 2015, we put in 26 billion shillings for the rail transport program. This year, that has gone up to 146 billion. That's the huge increase you're seeing. Okay, that's an increase of 120 billion shillings.
Understood.
Okay, that's the reason why it's at this level. Okay. Now, the other big one is cabinet affairs. Not very sure what that means.
What is
Cabinet
cabinet affairs?
That's a good question. We'll try and find it.
Yes.
So cabinet affairs also went up. As you can see, the amounts are very different if you compare it to this. But just the sheer increase
Yeah.
is what you're actually looking at.
Yes.
So you can see that went up also by
366.
That's cabinet affairs. Now remember the reason why you are doing this, and the reason why you will be doing this is simply you want to be able to relate to the priorities being funded in the budget. At the end of this whole exercise, all you want to say is, I think those programs speak to what I want. Okay? And if you are to make a submission, you want to be very specific and say, I looked at this, I liked many of them, but I did not like 1, 2, 3 things. That's the level of detail that any budget person would be happy to see coming into public participation funds. So this is quite easy to do, but very useful. So I want to just pick up the top 5. The next one is National Statistical Information and Services. That also went up quite a bit.
That basically means what falls.
Kenya Bureau of
That's
Standards.
Kenya Bureau of Standards. One thing that I was a bit shocked by this because we don't have a census till 2019, so I was wondering why that was. But what I noticed is actually they decided to combine 2 programs together. So that's the reason why there's a big increase.
There's a big increase because also, like we did the demographic health survey this year.
Yeah.
So it came out and then, but it's still, yeah. But it's very good.
Okay, but you can see that level of detail also start because now I can.
It's good because you understand why.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to understand why the rest are.
It's the problem, yeah. Like for example, rail transport, I don't understand. And then train, and they come in swimming pools.
Okay, now the other big thing going up is governance and standards. Now this, I want you to see where this is. This kind of excited me a bit because of where it is. It is actually under Teacher Service Commission. So there's somebody who thinks teachers need to, there's something, I think this rotates more around monitoring and so on that teachers have been saying no to a lot. That screams a lot when this comes up. So it's a small amount, but it's going up big time. And my thinking is probably they are bringing in more evaluators and whatever they are called, stack tutors and whatever they are called. Those guys who monitor schools and how teachers are teaching. So that is also one of those big things that is getting.
Excuse me, Timothy, you said that teachers are screaming about it.
No,
They
there
want
was
to be monitored or they don't want to be monitored?
there was an issue.
Do they want?
They need to be.
They don't. That's why they're screaming.
You remember the time when somebody mentioned that teachers should sign performance contracts?
Yeah.
This is in that line.
They should.
And so it seems like TSC is still stuck to something being done here.
Maybe that's
Now, I want you to observe the other two things that are also high in this priority list. Tourism development and promotion. That is taking a huge increase from 2 billion shillings to about 8 billion shillings. Okay, to promote tourism. And then there's international trade and investments.
You see, that, okay. A practical way of looking at that, yeah? They spent that tourism thing, yeah? We spent 2 billion, 2.5 last year.
Yeah.
So we should look at what revenue did we get from tourism this year?
Yeah.
And how many people are out of work because there's no tourism? So do you want to promote tourism or have a social safety net for these people?
We want to
You know.
promote tourism.
But again,
We
how
can't
much that's
blame
to
the
be this side
tourism.
for this
Yeah.
effectively also.
Now,
It probably was,
8
but
billion.
the reason why I'm saying now this is the right time to do this. This is now the discussion
Yes.
we're having right now.
Yes, yes.
As I said,
Yeah.
the discussion about the sectors is gone. But the discussion about what is happening within the sectors, this is the right
It's
time
continuing.
to have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the kind of issue that you're saying, now this is the discussion that you'll be having with the ministries and at the same time with Parliament. Because remember the big thing with Parliament now, unlike before when they just approved budgets, Parliament can now amend the budget.
they can.
Yes.
At which
But
level?
You see the 2 months that I showed you.
Yes.
One of the reasons why that was done, first of all, was to make sure that Parliament has enough time to do this kind of analysis, and completely dig into the budget, and then have public participation before that final report that is debated in Parliament is tabled.
So between February and June.
Yes, so the Budget and Appropriations Committee actually can recommend for changes to be made to the budget.
Between
And
February and June.
No, between end of April and end of June.
Okay.
That's 2 months period.
End of April.
Okay, this period here is the one I'm speaking about. This period here. This is the approval period of the budget.
The green.
Yes.
That's green.
Yeah, it's green. This period, I will actually not just call it approval. To me, it's an approval and an amendment stage. Because they can actually amend the budget. So,
Can we influence that?
yes, you should influence. It's not can you, it's you should.
You should.
But Maskani conversation
That's why he
is
said
a big,
public.
Okay, so Parliament can make, and they've done this for all the years that at least I've attended this forum, but they actually do make recommendation for changes. Okay? So those kind of reallocations, if you put this much money into SDR, you put this much money into tourism and so on, Parliament can make those adjustments.
They increase or decrease the amount of
They can do either. There's only one condition to it, because you also don't want a rogue Parliament. Is that if you add money here, you have to show where it's come from. It means it's an equilibrium thing. So that's also to make sure that they are very careful when they are doing it. Otherwise, they'll just go adding money everywhere, and then our deficit will just blow up.
Yes.
Okay, so they have to show where the money is coming from if they are trying to increase something. So, for example, they might decide and say, we are going to reduce the amount of money going to tourism development, and then we are going to increase that to promotive health because we saw that is going down. They can do that. All right, so
Shall we have Mandazi?
Yes.
It's available.
okay, let me just finish this part and then
You can finish this. Yeah, I'm already actually.
He's on a-
You're more
he's
than
on a-
myself.
He's on a roll, eh?
No, he's doing much life. So
I want this to end fast. So that if I run out of here right now, you guys can actually say, okay, yeah, we knew something. Okay, so I wanted for you to just see what this makes you understand. And these are all the programs going down for all the ministries. I just combined all of them. And you can see what I have at that end, the vote. So those are the ministries under which all these programs are. Okay, but then you can do the kind of thing that I showed before, where you just take the ministry and look at the interplay between the programs. Now, so if you run down this list, there are so many things as you go down, different programs. But then there are those that are reducing. Let's see where that could be happening. Because not everything is going up. There are some, these ones that I have 100%, most of them are actually programs that were scrapped and moved into other programs.
Okay.
So the revenue and the
betting
funding has completely gone.
betting control. Just don't betting control. Why is it?
This is awesome.
Why is it new?
It's not new actually. It used to be there in 2014, 2015,
Oh.
but now it's been changed. The name has become Betting Field
Oh.
Services and something. So that budget has actually just moved.
But there's new
Oh, sorry, this is new. Oh, yeah. So this is a new program altogether. So if you see, there was no allocation in 2014, 2015, but now it has an allocation. So
Where's Nakada? Somebody have to do.
Me, I'm concerned about
really gonna grab
president services.
Deputy President Services.
What are those? Yeah. You know, for example,
Oh, the jet is there.
Yeah, Deputy President Services is also here as a new program. But there was a department.
Yeah.
It's just that they've decided to actually make it a program.
Oh. So all these, all these are programs, yeah?
Yeah, all these are programs.
Like meteorological services.
Yeah, that's a program.
We don't need.
Yeah.
They should even reduce further.
What? We don't need it.
What are they doing? Meteorological services.
See, they tell us what we're supposed
No,
to do.
actually, no.
Yeah,
They never go
no,
there.
no. Right. It's who doesn't do the services.
No, they never told us.
They told us it's going to rain.
Yeah.
They
So
told us it's going to rain.
I want us now to look at
Yeah.
where the money has gone down. Remember, we are not always just looking at where money has gone up. We also have to see where the money has actually gone down. Because remember, priorities means we are just making more things, some things important this year, and others are going down the importance list. So where is our importance list?
Implementation of the constitution.
So one of the things that is going down at this level is youth
Police.
training,
I'm interested in that implementation.
youth training and development.
What?
So youth training and development, you can see, has gone down by 73%.
Question mark.
Now,
The youth
what?
forum,
Now,
majority of the population.
Like if you compare that to the political deal, and this
There's
something-
there's something wrong.
this is the question. This is the question I want to throw.
Yeah, listen to the question.
This is the question I want to throw. Whenever you do this and you're able to see this, I think it's always important to try and dig up what could be happening. Now, one way to dig in with what is happening is to look at the detailed tables that I was showing you. Okay, because sometimes probably it's just a development expenditure that has gone down. It simply means probably we are building youth polytechnics na zimeisha. Okay? Because when development ends, then that amount goes down. That could be the case. Now, for example, when I was digging up this, I realized the government is giving a conditional grant to counties for youth something that is about 1.900 million and something. So that was one thing that I tried to explain. But remember, at the end of the day, whether it's going up or down, if I'm making a case in Parliament, I want to comfortably say I don't think this should be happening for obvious reasons. Okay, and those are, I'm calling them obvious because I'm guessing when you're presenting them, you know what reasons you have to say one or two things. So if you look, you can see the big guys going down: cooperative development, alternative energy technologies,
Electoral processes. Going down. Yeah, transport.
monitoring and evaluation of services. I'm not sure that's under
management
which.
of electoral processes.
Yes.
Why is that? Electoral is very key. Why is it
So
We
now
don't
we have.
really need it this coming year. We need it.
I think we like. I think
Just
that has link. So I can do something.
Ah, no, there is
Jimmy,
a
this one now. Jimmy, there is one for you. You're the one who likes those kinds of
we can
things.
Now,
But you create the link. You create the hyperlink yourself.
The
There's a good
hyperlink
discussion.
Yeah.
so you can see what happens at that percentage level. For me, that's the big point where you're able to tell what the government priorities are. And you're able to actually see what is happening under each ministry, and you're also able to see what is happening across all the programs of government. And this is just, I know it looks like a lot of things, but it's just an example. You just line them up. It's easy.
So you can
Now,
share this one.
Yes, I can share this.
Yes.
I can share this. And I won't send an invoice.
No, I think it is.
Your civic duty.
All right. Now, the other way you can look at that, because at the end of the day, you still want to know, the actual shillings. Percentages are good. They give you a nice view of what the priorities are, but also the aggregate amounts also tell you where the big money is going. Now, for obvious reasons, rail transport is where the big money is going. Okay, so you can see it has an increase of 120 billion shillings between 2014-15 and 2015-16. This is SGR money. This is a huge loan coming from China. It's right there. Okay, if you look at the budget, actually that loan is shown. Okay. Now, the other place getting big money is defense.
Good.
Okay, 13 billion increase. That's quite some amount.
That is what defense is. Huh?
Okay, when Karanji was retiring, he was telling the guys in defense that they are going to get medical cover and so on. So my first guess was probably that.
That's defense. That's not defense.
Oh, it is defense.
It is defense.
Defense is military and military personnel.
So if I go to, sorry, Kinuthia.
Yes.
So when I go to defense,
Yes.
so the thing you're showing us like this. So there are sub-programs.
Yes.
And then, so the money for our army
Should be
reflected in terms of like a Sunday. What compensation to employees
Yes.
So
would be there.
when you are at this level, it's just a total.
It's just
Yes.
When you go there, you're able to tell, is it happening across the programs?
Or
Is it
just
happening in one
compensation?
program?
and I can
Is it
actually
just a salary? Is it a development thing? That's the good thing about
And
drilling
then-
it down.
Are we
and then I
buying-
go to
are
the
we buying
narrative. The
Yeah.
narrative should then be able to explain.
Aircraft?
Yeah.
Are we building a wall?
Yes.
Like that. Also,
Yeah, but you can
Going
only
to
find that in the,
compensations.
you
Yeah.
can only find that in the narrative, though, right?
Yes.
So that's what I was
So
saying.
when you
You
mentioned
can
lo-
actually follow.
when you mentioned loans,
Yes.
Yes.
the money that we get from loans,
Yes.
and of course taxes, can you identify what the loan finances, or it's all put in one pot?
You can tell
You
what,
can actually track what this loan money is going to.
Yeah. what ministry.
And then we can prioritize, for example, do we actually need a loan to finance this project? No.
I think the loan one, the other part
Mm.
about the loan. So I was about to go to this and go down. The big thing about the loan is that at the same time when the budget policy statement is going to Parliament, a document called the debt strategy management paper also goes to Parliament. Now that is where we decide what loans we want to take and what amount of money we are going to commit to pay for loans we took before.
But the debt
And
management
yes,
strategy paper.
and who is going to pay it? Because actually what we're doing is we're pushing this now to, it's been pushed to a younger generation, to the youth.
To your great grandchildren.
The first bit of your question has a very obvious answer on who is going to pay. Yes. So the thing is, in that paper, we get to see the debt position of the country. How much money are we committing to pay debt that we incurred previously, and how much are we planning to borrow to kind of plug in any deficit that we have for the coming financial year. If you think about the way our budget is structured, a lot of the money we collect locally mostly ends up just paying for our recurrent costs. A huge chunk of our development comes from loans and grants that are external and also loans that we borrow locally.
So this debt strategy.
Yes.
Sorry.
When a country decides to borrow,
Yes.
is it good practice for the so-called people with that responsibility to seek and how should
Yes, I would say yes, and I'm going to use very, very cliche language here. The assumption is, when you look at, I've never quoted section 1, article 1 or article 2 of the Constitution. I find it so cliche, I never quote it, but I'll do it today. That all sovereign power belongs to the people.
Yes.
And these people can exercise this power through one,
delegation,
through
representation,
which is in.
and
Alright. This debt strategy management paper must be approved by Parliament. So the assumption will be that before Parliament passes it, for example, they could have a way to say, okay, can we get some public input on this? That would be a requirement. If they don't, the assumption would still be that they are there representing you.
So that person who you are actually voting for, you're giving that person
that's
the
why
power
that article
to go and put
Which means-
your kids into
That's why
No, this is evident.
it's very, very powerful for me.
Yes.
Because Kenyans need to understand.
They need to understand this.
That, you know, at the point when you're electing your representative, you're delegating. So it's important for you to elect somebody who you know,
I think
who will actually look at your purpose and understand what needs to be done. And you don't do that.
Exactly.
Okay, before we
here.
this is more of a budget session than a legal session.
welcome to Maskani conversations. They go all sorts of different directions. But are you done with this? Because I'm worried about your energy levels.
No, I'm good.
And I'm interested in your
Let me finish. Let me finish with it.
Sorry?
We're gonna finish phase 1 and then we take a break.
That's what I was
Let me
thinking.
finish with this.
So we can finish with this
Things
session.
around.
So
And then we break for a couple of minutes, then come back and do the rest.
all right.
Thank you.
Maybe my proposal was let us focus on this so that we can scrutinize, where the figures, we scrutinize them before we start maybe blaming somebody. We first of all scrutinize because we may lose the point here.
So I agree with you. It's very important for us, as I say it first, even before I conclude, is this good or bad? To kind of go to where the breakdown of this program is and try and understand what the dynamics are between the programs, between the different economic classifications, and make sure I have picked everything. So I was just showing, this just shows you where the big money increase is. Now this is not in percentage terms, this is just actual amounts. So you can see transport, defense, electricity, that's power transmission and distribution. So here I would be thinking, Ketraco, that's the state agency that deals with this. Then you have teachers. This is what I was saying. So teachers are also getting an increase. Police is there as well, going up. Then you have road transport, and you can see as you go down what the big increases are. So when you have this, and you have the other one that is just looking at the percentage increase, already you are getting a picture of what the priorities, the government has in mind for the coming financial year. Now, remember where we are in that process. We are at the stage where Parliament has to come to us to debate about this before approving it. And the big question we'll always be asking ourselves is, these priorities that are reflected, are they speaking about the priority? Are they speaking to the priorities that we feel as a people that these are the priorities we should be funding? Okay? So that is a question now that is left to everyone. If somebody has an interest in transport, then they might just want to speak to that. Somebody has an interest in health, then they might want to speak just to the programs under health. But ideally, I think this gives you a bit of fodder to work with. So if you connect this, and you connect it to the targets and indicators that I showed you, and then you think about the narrative, is it explaining to you how we arrived at these figures to achieve those goals you saw in the indicators? Then already you have quite a full plate to work with in terms of what is it that I think about this.
So this means that currently our priority is rail transport.
If you ask me, it looks like there's a lot of infrastructure things that we're still doing. If you take the top 10, which will be up to this level, you can see power, urban planning, you can see roads, you can see power again, and you can see transport.
Yes, and what?
So if you think about infrastructure as energy as one thing, then you can see a big priority for us seems to be headed in that direction. If you go to the percentage side, then the story is could be a bit different. But in either way, either angle you look at them, you're able to speak to the issues that are in the budget. So this kind of moves you away from just looking at what you said, 600 pages with a little narrative numbers, and so on. One thing I always say is, whenever you see those big budget books, you're not required to read them page to page. Please don't do that. You'll demoralize yourself. I also don't do that. I work on budgets every day and I don't do that. The thing is, you have certain interests that you want to have. Like now there's a summary of this somewhere in the budget that you have. All I just did was just take them up and put them into Excel. Because I didn't have to read the whole thing. But from this, then it gives me the point where I need to go and get clarification from the budget. Yeah. So are we somewhere?
Yes.
Are we heading somewhere, or we are heading into the boomers. All right. So this is it's all coming together. That's awesome. So this is I wanted first of all for you to be able to see the structure of the budget, and secondly, just how to go drilling down as you're looking at it. You're free to ask a question. Yes. They asked a lot of questions. Yes.
And don't ask questions we ask.
Don't worry, I won't tell. Just
All I'm getting right now is not just numbers. I'm getting that I actually have the right to approve national subject, which to so many of us, we look at it and we think that there's somebody who's supposed to actually do that, not because I am not supposed to, but that's their job. So it is me who's actually saying yes to this and no to that, like directly to this.
one challenge that has been there to cover your point and with a bit of also a general view is that the budget process changed. The government had to change, but we've been a bit slower to change. And by us, I mean the public, civil society, and so on. Because for government, it's legal for them, they have to do it. Treasury has to bring a budget by April 30th. Probably they would have loved to bring it on June 29th and it's approved on June 30th. But the law requires that they bring it in April. So all those things have happened. There are all manner of dates that have now been presented that provide nice entry points for the public to engage. All these dates you're seeing here are all dates in law. It's very detailed. There are dates when key documents are supposed to be released by government and government agencies, and there are also key dates for us as the public to engage. So we've been a bit slow to take advantage of this.
Why can't the government inform?
There's somebody who spoke about the benevolence of the baker. Something I don't remember that. They have to do it because it's a legal requirement as well. That's why Parliament had hearings last year. But then those hearings were only held in Nairobi. They were not held in Maskani. So there are some of these things that are being done just because the law requires. But you can imagine how much that would change if we moved in and push them a bit more. So the public has been, I think we've been a bit, we are picking up. I'm not saying we are not picking up. If you look at the forums that were held last week, they were way more impressive compared to what I saw last year. Okay, people are coming into these forums. So we need to take advantage of all these dates and not just at the formulation stage. We love here because this is where we go and give our wish lists. But we need to also go into the implementation part and be able to engage with these implementation documents. I'll speak to them after the Mandazi break about how do we also deal with the implementation part once we've approved the budget. So all these dates you're seeing here are not IGP dates. These are dates either in the Constitution or in the PFM Act, the Public Financial Management Act. And all these are good points of entry for us as non-state actors to now influence this process directly. I want to believe my MP has good thoughts. But I also want to be there. All right? And the law gives me the opportunity to be there. Now, for all the people who voted for the Constitution, I believe most of us, we actually voted for all these dates. We are the ones who said we wanted this. So we need to just take advantage of them. And by taking advantage of them, then when we engage with some level of understanding of the budget, when we get in there quite up. And I think that is good for engagement. Does that answer? I'll speak.
Why, it's your birthday.
Right.
Shall we just
yeah.
It's not just a question. I'm just asking, did you guys have any representatives at the public hearings that were happening?
Let me say indirectly. There is a group called Haki Jamii, and there was another group that that we helped kind of do a bit of the public. We sent on ourselves directly. These things I'm showing you are part of what the memorandum we sent as IGP directly. But then we did not have somebody from IGP making the presentation per se. But we sent in our memorandum, but also we helped a couple of groups that were going to that process, and they came and they said, okay, we want to go to this budget process and we want to say something. So can you help us understand? And we also did it for Nairobi County, also because remember there are also county hearings separately. And Haki Jamii, one of the CSOs we work with, had put together a number of community organizations from the informal settlements, and we also spent a whole day with them, kind of just getting them to understand what does a program budget entail, what does the Nairobi County budget entail, and then how do you, what are the things that you think are important, what are the things that you think the governor should think about in this budget. And they also made a presentation which I believe was pretty nice.
So as a citizen, right? So I would be engaging with the government with the budget process at two levels.
Yes.
I'm engaging with it at the national level, and then for the county that I'm in.
That's right.
As well.
Yes. That's what you have to.
And the county processes are different from this.
They're exactly the same.
But there's okay, you have no touch on county here.
Yes. But as I said at the beginning, these processes are actually the same and actually run at the same time.
So even right now, you cannot influence county budgets.
At the sector level?
Yes.
At the sector level, you can't.
But you have to wait for that green for the county.
The green one
because I'm going to this. I need to know where I can get it.
Yes. No, the green is now.
Let me say something that will disappoint you a little.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh. Huh?
This process you're seeing here, you can just take a county and layer it on this. It's exactly the same. The only difference is two documents where the budget policy statement at the national level comes out or is supposed to be tabled in the National Assembly by mid-February, February 15th. And the county has a similar document, but then it comes out 2 weeks later. Because remember, as she said, as Joanne said correctly, that whatever is happening at the national level in terms of goals and standards has to be considered by the counties. So counties have to wait for that to come so they can set their county fiscal strategy papers, which they approve by mid-March. And the sector story for counties end there. And then the rest of the processes are all the same. So April 30th, Nairobi had a county budget in its county assembly. Last week, on Thursday, I believe, they had a public forum on that budget.
That's why I saw this Kilifi thing also. Right?
Yeah, so Kilifi is calling for one now. So many counties will actually hold those forums towards the end of this month.
And then they put them on which page is that of the newspaper?
It's actually in color.
But how many people in Kilifi County, for example, have access to that?
But we know that's why Maskani is there.
Yeah.
Let's take one.
Yeah, let's do the a hungry man.
So when you go to the community and you talk to the community organizations about all of this, that information stays within those organizations. Do you have a process where after that they go and educate the other people in the villages or anything of that sort, or it just remains there? Because I think that's where the missing link is, of where now the public really needs to know about this.
I get where you are starting. Now,
but you may not necessarily be able to do this.
One thing that we do,
it becomes our job. It doesn't, and it's not even that NGO's job or that CTO's job. I think technically, it's actually we have to rethink part of the conversation that we might have to think about is rethinking entire civic education curriculum in this country.
Yes.
Because this is information that we should all have at high school.
What civic education and engagement? Because education, it's there. Education is there. You can.
For us, we always work with one thinking, that we are working with or supporting organizations that ideally are working at either at a sector level, okay, some could be working at the sector level at the national level, and others could be working at the county level where they're actually trying to engage with the communities within the wards. In some places like in Taveta, they even say they try to influence everything down to the sub-location level. But then this also requires that if you as a community organization is going to engage with these communities, then you also want to build your knowledge. But you also don't get there and tell them, tukifika huko tuseme tunataka pesa mingi ya help. Okay, you know that language that comes up a lot in public participation, to more of we as a community are going to say 1, 2, 3 things. We've seen the budget and we think this is the part that should be tweaked to speak to what we want. So those community organizations are what I can say the link that should connect the high-level organizations that could be working in this area and the communities that ideally should be feeding into the budget process. The question about civic education is a whole area that we need to look at. And some counties are getting very creative about how they are going about it. Like we had about 3 weeks last year in Tweetup, where their governor was very specific. He said, I want all my ward administrators, sub-county administrators, people from our finance office to be trained about what the budget process looks like, what is it that they need to engage. But I also want to throw in NGOs and CSOs and CBOs from this county. And they divided themselves into sub-counties and we did, I think, 6 trainings of about 120 people each from these different organizations. So technically what they did is they cut out the cost of doing separate trainings. They combined them. The county government paid for that. So you can see a county government paying for CSOs to be trained. And he said, the reason why I want that is because I don't want these people to be shouting at me from the trees when they don't know what they are talking about. I want them to be engaging with me at the same level. And I think if I have my administrators in there, it becomes less. Those kind of creative ways to deal with knowledge and engagement at the counties, I think is useful. And probably that's the route we need to go. Past the usual, somebody comes, quotes 1 million chapters of the Constitution, and so we did civic education in Kilimani. So,
shall we have Mandas?
Oh, yeah, he's the one who got us like this.
Yes. I've just been, I came in late, that's why I discussion before. But I've also said, I've seen that you're looking at budget estimates.
Yeah.
You're looking at approved estimates, that's for last year. But I don't know, what's the process in following up in actually, how was money used? Because we are focusing on how is the money used. But what about how is the money used?
So we'll speak to that shortly.
The light green.
No, that's the yellow.
Oh,
The light green.
Okay, because I'm specifically asking about something that even this year I'm noticing something has happened and nobody's really interested.
Yeah.
Is that after the money has been moved, and the Auditor General has about 6 months to verify that the money has been used in the legal end, the way that it's supposed to be used. And it's supposed to be used the report by the end of December. Now, the report would go for expenditure for 2014 with new last year. That has been exist. And I haven't had any.
Now, one of the problems is that you and I know that. I don't know how much you've done.
What has not been released?
The expenditure.
There's a deadline as well.
Constitution and the Constitution is supposed to be published
within 6 months after the end of the
financial year.
So the
so 20.
So think of it this way.
Or is it out?
No, the 2013-2014, if you think about, I want to place what he says. 2013-2014 financial year ideally ended last June. Okay? After the end of June, the Auditor General has 6 months within which he has to release a report or to give us a report about how the money was spent for that year. So what he's saying is, December came and that report is still not. Here is June coming, that report is still not. So nobody has spoken about it. That's what
and that report would be useful in this period that we are in of between April and June. This budget estimates,
yeah. So we'll pick the issue I think that Nyakio was speaking about this, of the people who used money badly. How do we deal with them at the budget level also? You can be able to do that.
How much is it done?
How much money was
Should
returned?
we-
Why was it returned? Why are you giving more money?
How much
to
money
like
was used
something
out of the vote?
Hey,
How much money was used?
All right.
Shall we do 50?
Well, I just will speak to the issue of spending. The implementation date of the that should be fine.
Yes. Let me ask you.
Shall we do
As a
big
vote,
mandazi, come back, and then we can finish? Yeah? There is mandazi, but yeah, somebody is saying that we have sent some more.